What's going on, North-South Connection? This is Mike Rossi here from the Shootin' Sharp podcast, here for the second night in a row to recap the craziness that just went down to end SummerSlam Night 2. With me today, I've got a guest that we used to have back on the day with us when we were running clotheslines and headlines, I think we called it. But I got Matt Cummings. How you doing today, buddy?
Yo, what's going on, brother? Fresh off SummerSlam Night 2. Super pumped to be here and talk a little wrestling.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of throw you on the spot here nice and early. So we are, probably about 20 minutes after the show ended. Give me like the three biggest takeaways you have from the show.
All right. Well, I think the first and foremost takeaway is Brock is back. Biggest takeaway, Brock is back in whatever capacity he's going to be back. But I think the whole landscape of WWE changes every time Brock Lesnar returns. And definitely not something I had on my bingo card for tonight. But
no.
Number one is definitely the landscape has shifted again in Brock Lesnar. Number two, I would say is Cody is the guy, and nothing's changing. There's no heel runs, there's no heel turns, nothing's changing. WWE, it's cliche. You hear it every time he is QB1. They are giving Cody Rhodes the ball, and they are saying, get back out there, and you're our guy. Cody Rhodes is the certified face of the company, would be my number two takeaway. Number three, trying to come up with a takeaway for the women's division, but I think the women's division is in great hands. Great opening triple threat match. Probably some of Naomi's best work. And then I would say, Becky and Lyra tore the house down for an awesome no DQ match. Got the story going with Bayley. The women's division is just chugging along. I think it might be the hottest division in wrestling right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think that we definitely saw the best of their women's division tonight, as opposed to last night, where obviously, you had Tiff and Jade that obviously only were given about 7 minutes, but I don't really think that they really should have had more than 7 minutes, right? And then as a contrast today, you had Becky Lynch and Lyra go 25, and, obviously the women opened up the show. So it was very interesting to me. Like we were talking about last night on the post show, how WrestleMania Night 1 ended with Jey Uso coming out with his entrance. Night 1 started, I should say. And then it ended with the turn with Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. And then Night 2 started with the three-way with Rhea, Io, and Bianca, and then ended with John Cena and Cody. So we kind of had a rehashing or retelling of WrestleMania over these 2 days, right? And it's kind of interesting to see where the bookends of both shows changed over the time. Like, obviously, between, the stuff that we had last night, like the Rollins stuff just kind of hit its apex, obviously, after Money in the Bank. And then in the opener, it was, Jey Uso kind of getting another, like, push back to the top of the card. And then tonight, you had the women where, instead of Io reigning supreme, it was Naomi, who obviously is now geared up for a big match in France with Stephanie Vicaire. And then the men, the close of the show, obviously a retelling of where John Cena was just 3 months ago at WrestleMania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 3.5, I should say. So I guess before we get into this match, what were your thoughts going into tonight with Cena and Cody, especially with, Cena seemingly turning babyface out of nowhere on Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I had it all figured out until Friday night. I assumed we were going to get a kind of maybe a supercharged version of their WrestleMania match. Someone was going to get involved, and Cena was going to walk away with the title by hook or by crook. I take that back a little bit. Actually, I was feeling a little indifferent about this match. I think Peter Rosenberg actually said it on the pre-show where it was like I just couldn't see either one of them taking the pin. I couldn't see Cody taking the pin. I couldn't see Cena as a heel taking the pin, and then the babyface turn comes out of nowhere. I think I like to think that, going into most matches, I can tell you who's going to win for the most part. But this one, I just felt super, super conflicted. And then the babyface turn which seems solidified now out of nowhere. Really just I was scratching my head going into this one, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like my first thoughts going into really yesterday was, obviously I was expecting a Rollins cash in. I kind of, when they both were baby, I was starting to wonder if they were going to go baby, baby match with Rollins kind of crashing that party. And that would have been like even kind of like the ultimate shock, right? Because the Punk stuff really, in hindsight, wasn't that much of a shock.
Yeah.
But, obviously Cena, I've said to my friends as, the match is about to start, I hope that Cena does like the goofiest babyface entrance ever. And then, if he ends up just being a ruse and him turning back heel again at the end, that would be the funniest way to do it. But in realistic, I think they just realized, hey, we don't have a creative way to get John Cena babyface. And then obviously we got to figure out a way to flip him now. And like the crowd was the interesting part of this match because the crowd wanted John Cena, right? Cody got his typical pop in his pomp and circumstance when he came out. I mean, the Dusty entrance was awesome. But the crowd was kind of indifferent towards Cody once they were in the ring. And I wonder if that would have happened if, Cena came in as the bodacious heel that he had been for the last few months. It might be a way that they were kind of able to test the waters with that. But what did you feel about the crowd in relation to Cody and Cena tonight?
It kind of messed with me a little bit when it happened I think it was in Vegas. Might have been the Raw before Mania. But tonight, you could tell that the crowd was I felt very indifferent about this crowd the entire show. There was some good moments, and then there was some moments I was like, what is going on?
Right.
But for this match, I kind of assumed right away that maybe you're kind of getting ahead of that what was going to happen. The crowd chanting for Cena and the crowd booing Cody. And, I think people are just kind of look back at WrestleMania so negatively that maybe they just tried to get ahead of it because, it's New York. It's a smart crowd. You got a lot of people coming in, paying money to see that. They want to chant for Cena.
Right.
Time. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of anticipated that. And maybe just that kind of preemptive babyface turn was just a way to say like, let's just give these guys some time to put on a match and just let the crowd do whatever they want to do. And the rest is
right.
Take care of itself after 35 minutes. Right.
Yeah. And you've got your next two PLEs are, out of the US, right? Because obviously they've got the Paris show at the end of August. And then I think it's early October. There might be one in between. I don't know, but they've got the Australia show and little mini tour coming. So obviously Cody will get big ovations in those places. Everybody's going to be over at those. So they could toe the line on this one for sure. And, obviously I think, his first night coming out of this might be not the greatest of crowds for Cody, but it'll flip again once they get to, the smaller towns again. So it was kind of interesting though, because I think there is definitely a segment of the crowd that wants Cody Rhodes to be the heel at some point soon. It seems like he just doesn't want to do it. And obviously it's kind of like why Cena never did it for as long as he did. They have to have that kind of replacement baby there. But, CM Punk is around. And there's, obviously meat on a bone to a Cody Punk feud down the line. So it'll be interesting to see if they make any decisions coming out of this crowd reaction long term. As you may probably start thinking more towards Mania, because I don't really think that there's going to be much of like last night when Seth won the title, you kind of could line up like 6 challengers for him already, right? Between LA Knight, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, Gunther, Cena, and then not Cena, I'm sorry, Punk himself, and then eventually a Braun turn. You don't really have that with Cody right now. Right. So it'll be interesting to see how they maneuver the crowds around, because like obviously the one that will make the most sense long term on that SmackDown roster is a Jacob Fatu. But obviously he's getting that big time baby face push as well and kind of fighting from underneath. So it's going to be interesting to see, because obviously now we know where Cena's direction is going to be moving forward. There's really no clear cut, path ahead for Cody. Solo's been done to death. He's still tied into Jacob. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that, SmackDown roster in relation to what's next for Cody and his second now world title reign.
Yeah, it's a little scary. I feel like we're going to end up with Cody versus Solo at in Paris or something that's going to be a little bit more disappointing. I think about that roster, and you're right. It's Cody Rhodes, and then it's probably, Randy Orton's right up there as well. But
right.
Huge step down, which and that's the premier title, right? That's not like the world heavyweight title where you could throw a Santos Escobar in a small SmackDown feud or something like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I'm actually excited to see what they do moving forward, because it's, they got 3 pay-per-views left.
Yeah.
I think the end goal for me personally, I would love to see that if you can get to that roles reversed, Cody Reigns 3, where the Roman's the heel and Cody's the babyface, but I don't think that's the case this year. I don't know. I could see that as more of like a WrestleMania 42 thing, but no, you're right. It's going to be very interesting to see Cody deal with the group of competitors that he's been dealing with. It seems like Randy Orton would probably be my first go.
Yeah, that might be like the long-term story. I mean, they did that in King of the Ring, and they left meat on the bone. So Ryan's popping in here. Should giving you a shout, Matt. So
hey, what's up, brother? He was at the show, right?
Yes. Most of our pod network here was at the show. So we were able to pull you out of the bullpen to kind of come in relief when we need you. So we appreciate you big time.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
And Crazy Shark, who is here on most of these, Cody versus Gunther, maybe move Gunther to SmackDown. Yeah, maybe. I don't think we're going to be seeing Gunther for a little bit, though. It sounds like he's got some sort of nasal surgery coming his way, which, might be a short-term thing. Knowing him, he'll be out a week, but we'll see. So now let's talk about, I guess, the meat and potatoes of the Cena-Cody match. The tail end of the match was really, there was a lot of heavy moves, heavy violence, we'll say, between these two. Cody hit 3 straight. I can't think of his crossroads. And then he got Cena kicked out. And then at that point, he looked desperate. He went for the title, wanted to end it the same way that he lost at WrestleMania. He missed, and then Cena landed 2 straight AAs before going to the top turnbuckle for a super AA. It looked like the finishing touch, but Rhodes kicked out, and they were both, Super Cena versus Super Cody was on. Cena then tried another Super AA with a table placed in the ring. Rhodes got down and then climbed up for flying crossroads. Cena was stunned, and Rhodes saluted Cena before delivering one last crossroads. Kind of reminded me of, HBK saluting Ric Flair before he super kicked him out of wrestling, basically. Well, out of WWE, at least in ring. And then at this point, from there, it was enough, and Rhodes got the win in 37 minutes and 45 seconds. Cena looked great, man. I think we were talked about it, last night, how these street fights have kind of seen as bread and butter. But even if you take the Gaga away, I think from an in-ring perspective, just like the regular move side of things, and maybe it's just him working babyface, but he looked a lot better. What did you think of the Cena performance tonight?
Oh, I think it was probably his best match since I want to go back to that Royal Rumble against AJ Styles. That's probably the comp I would give it to, like, just really over-delivered. And just got to really work with the right partner. I loved this match. I thought the Cena performance was incredible. I think what really stood out to me about this match was kind of they teased a little bit of everything that everybody was talking about going into the buildup of this match. They tease a little bit of like John losing his patience. They tease a little bit of Cody losing his patience. They tease, a camera's really zoomed in on Cena. Oh, is he going to do it? Is this all a big ruse? Did we just get fooled and Cody let his guard down again? Like, just between some of and the nostalgic spots too, like the Umaga, STF with the rope,
right?
There was some greatest hits in there. The Super AA from the table. I thought it was really good performance, and I think they just told a very good story out there. Again, kind of teasing everything everyone's been talking about going into this match, and kind of making you think like, oh, it could happen. And like you said, I think the street fights are seen as bread and butter. Just let the man tell a story. I think that's exactly what you need to let him do, and I think it was great performance.
Right. At one point, Cody unscrewed the bottom turnbuckle, which led to that kind of callback to the Umaga match for a brief moment for Cena. But that was kind of when you were kind of wondering if Cody was teetering on being like a full-blown heel at that point.
Yeah.
Because he had the metal piece of the bottom that he hit Cena with twice. And then he didn't want to hit him again, though. So he was willing to, but he was hoping that Cena would just stay down. He was asking the ref to take a look at him. So it's just good storytelling. I think that fit obviously where they're both going to be going moving forward. I mean, these are two guys that are going to obviously still be two of your big merch sellers for the remainder of this year, at least. And, there was that respect factor all the way to the finish, which could have turned at any point. If you were waiting for The Rock's music to hit at some point and have him come down and help either of them, like, it could have happened conceivably,
Yeah. Once I saw that salute, that really kind of locked it in for me, like that their objective was to get away from this John Cena heel turn as fast as possible and just put on a good match, and no one's going to complain after it.
Right.
That's what I think when they did that wonky babyface turn on SmackDown on Friday. They just said, we got to get out of this. We got to get these last 4 months in. We got to get some greatest hits going again. And you get matches like that. Like that. It's a completely different story. But I think that salute was just kind of that, like I said, that solidification of, Cody's our guy. We're not doing anything. Guy's making us money. People are singing his song. He's here for, next few years, I think, before we see any type of heel turn.
Right. And kind of the same thing we were talking about with how Cena, Cody didn't have opponents as a babyface coming up. Yeah. Cena had run out of those opponents as well. Yeah. So obviously there's a whole bevy of heels that he can have matches with now on the way out, because I think what a lot of people thought going into this is they were trying to figure out who was winning this match. And the things that I was hearing were, Cena backers were thinking, oh, he's booked for like every show but the Boston show in August. He's clearly going to be around for a little bit more. He's doing Paris. He's doing Australia. And then after that, he's booked for Survivor Series and whatever they do in Boston, right? So at the end of the day, everybody was also then thinking that Cody was going to be going the route of shooting Street Fighter, and maybe he was going to be away from TV, because it did actually come out, early today that Roman was flying to Australia Tuesday to start filming his parts. But I do think Roman has a bigger role, so Cody doesn't seem like he's going to be needed as much as Roman will. But now we don't have to worry about that. We kind of know that Cody's still going to be the guy moving forward, and who knows, maybe he's not even used on the Paris show to have anything major and like a main event, because your main event might be made by what happened after this match. Now, Cena got up and gave Rhodes the title before giving him some love and really cheering him on. At one point, he said to him, hey, you wanted the best John Cena, you got him. Cena was visibly, looking at the crowd, talking to certain people, probably friends in the front row, saying, hey, I emptied the tank. This was all I had, yada, yada, yada. And just as we thought we were going off the air, Brock Lesnar's music hit. And the Beast, who has conquered John Cena on numerous occasions, comes out. And obviously, famously, 2014, so 11 years ago at SummerSlam, when he essentially squashed John Cena. Or maybe that was 2015, I don't remember. But either way, it was after WrestleMania 30, so it was 2014. So Cena, Brock came in, he stalked Cena. Cena looked shaken. Brock had the long hair. He, looked like $1 million as always. Gets in the ring, F5 Cena, and leaves. So obviously we're setting up another Cena Brock match. Michael Cole, I thought, was awesome when the music hit. Immediately let out a holy shit. I think a lot of people were expecting The Rock. There was some rumblings that came out about 4 or 5 o'clock today by some people in the know that he might have been involved. But at the end of the day, it was Brock Lesnar. We talked about it a little bit in your big three, but what was your visceral reaction when you heard Brock's theme?
Of course it's that iconic intro to Brock Lesnar's theme song, then and then, you do the look over, you're like, oh shit. But for me, I would be more curious to know what comes after the John Cena greatest hits for Brock. I'm interested. I'm not like, this is something I didn't know I needed. I don't necessarily need it. But it's a major player on the roster that's gonna shake things up. So I'll be interested, but it's not something I'm clamoring for. It's a cool greatest Cena hit is kind of how I'd look at it, I guess. And
and obviously you're gonna have a lot of people with strong opinions on Brock returning, due to obviously pretty much being straight out mentioned in the Janelle Grant suit. So there's definitely going to be, it's an interesting spot that this was a weekend that they decided to do away with the press conferences, right? Because that would have been a heavy topic tonight. So, maybe that was part of what pushed them that direction, but they're going to have to answer to it at some point. And it'll be interesting to see how that all breaks down, because I think that's where the shock was mostly in line. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe they hold off to like Australia for that. Maybe they do it in Paris. Who knows? Cena's going to be on a lot of TVs moving forward, so we're going to have to follow it away. And kind of to piggyback off of that, Crazy Shark says the IWC are apparently all lawyers and legal experts. Yeah, I mean, in a way. And there's also like kind of that, does big company want to involve themselves with, something that could potentially be damning, but who knows? I mean, they obviously know the ins and outs of this one a lot more than we do, and it's kind of weird to even have us speculate on it. But if you feel weird about it, I also don't think that that's a bad, abnormal feeling, Yeah,
it's not even necessarily. I mean, I don't know if you're referring to people in general or me, but it's not a weird feeling. It's more of like a Brock Lesnar in 2025. How much do I care? Aside from the Cena nostalgia. Which will be fun when it happens. But I'm just curious to see how he fits in any of these rosters. It's like Brock Lesnar, the Vision, which is Seth's group now, and LA Knight. It's just it's a weird group, and I'd be interested to see how he fits. But other than that, I'm kind of just like Brock in 2025. Okay, cool. That was cool. All right, what's next?
Yeah, and there are some interesting opponents for him, but obviously he's gonna be presented as a heel. So we'll see where it all goes. And then just to kind of put an end and bow on this John Cena combo and everything that happened with the main event, Sean Porter comes in, says it'll be very interesting to look back at the Cena heel turn as a whole after this weekend, and really not even now, like what's gonna happen when he leaves Boston in mid-December, right? We're going to have to look back at this whole year and kind of see how it all worked. And who knows when we see The Rock again. But that's kind of where I think this heel turn went wrong, was in the fact that I think they had plans in place with The Rock, and The Rock just didn't get what he wanted and just flew the coop.
Yeah, I think it is one of those things, though, that you're going to look back at it, whether we're looking back at it in 5-10 years. We're not going to remember the nitty gritty of it. We're going to remember when Cena turned heel at Elimination Chamber. That was sick. Remember that CM Punk Thugonomics promo? That was sick. Remember that Cody Rhodes and Cena promo when they fucking dug into each other before WrestleMania? There was a lot of good moments that came out of this. The Randy Orton RKO to Cena as he was holding up the title the night after WrestleMania. I think we will end up looking back at it fondly as like a weird little, almost non-canon event, but we'll look back at it and remember some of those cool moments. But it's kind of like anything, it'll age nicely no matter how weird it was through the entire time.
Right, you always remember the big moments, right? And obviously the heel turn was one of the biggest ones we've had in the last decade, right? So I think that obviously it didn't go perfectly, but Cena, I'll tell you with what I saw out of Cena in ring tonight, I'm excited to see how he works as a babyface for the rest of the year. Now, this was a show, when I was thinking about the Cena-Cody match, even as the show was going on, I was like, holy shit, there was 6 matches on the show, 5 of which you could legally beat the shit out of your opponent with weapons. I was afraid that there was going to be too much of that stuff, that they were kind of going to either be duplicating things as the show went on, but they really, whoever agented these matches, they were able to avoid spots that were repetitive throughout this night. And even we'll get into the Becky Lyra match. There was some creative stuff there. Then they kind of called back to that in the Jacob Solo match, but the first match of the night, which was a no DQ triple threat match, because all triple threat matches are, they didn't really play up the weapons that much in this one, though. In a women's world championship triple threat match, Naomi defended against Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. Finish came, Ripley landed a dive on Naomi, and Sky turned a powerbomb of Ripley onto Naomi. Sky tried to bring Ripley into the ring for a finisher, only for Sky to once again meet her on the top turnbuckle. She landed an avalanche riptide, and it looked like Rhea was finally going to be able to pin Io. They shot it in such a way you didn't see Naomi coming in to break it up. Naomi not only broke it up, but she just ran in and rolled Ripley up for the victory, caught her off guard, and the referee counted to 3. Naomi retains the title in 16 minutes and 20 seconds. My immediate thought with this match was kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's going to always be compared to the WrestleMania match. How do you see this one in particular in comparison to that great triple threat match we had opening night 2 of WrestleMania?
That's I feel like I'd like to watch this match again, but I don't know. That women's triple threat match at WrestleMania was incredible. It's one of those ones that I will vividly look back and remember. There's some matches where you're like, what WrestleMania was that at? I will remember that one. I don't know if I'll necessarily always never forget this triple threat match. I don't know if it had that oomph to it. It didn't have that build too. Also, I feel like the build played a huge part into that. But there was some great moments. I think one of my biggest takeaways is just Rhea and Io Sky should always be at arm's length from each other, and they got to keep that pin streak going as long as they can, because it adds that level of aura to Io Sky. And I thought Naomi really, really did a good job. She is humming right now with her character. She's got it all figured out, and she really that entrance was so special. That was so cool. That felt like a WrestleMania entrance, and just Naomi has done such a good job working her character into her style of wrestling. Like, you can just, she's got the look, she's got kind of that piss on her face. She's always giving people dirty looks. Like, you'll hear her kind of talk back and forth. She's a little bit extra aggressive. So to answer your question again, sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent.
No, it's all good. It's all good. That's what we're here for.
20 minutes ago, I'm just trying to fresh break it down. I don't know if it's going to reach that WrestleMania level for me personally. I really enjoyed that match, and I'll look back on it very fondly. But this one, I don't know if I'll specifically look back on it, but it just further proved that they got a roster on Monday Night Raw that they can keep working with. And they got some good stories. They're telling really good stories. Whereas before, it always felt like just women competed for number one contendership and title matches. You never had these cool little side stories between like Ia and Rio of like, oh, she's never pinned her. Like, they're firing on all cylinders right now, and this match just proved it. Especially the build.
Right. I think that this match was pieced together in a way to make Naomi look strong, which she did mostly deliver on. They were doing a lot of the 2-on-1 early, and Naomi was holding her own. And she had her heat spots. Obviously, Io gets better every match she's in to me right now. She's such a shining star, and not to say Rhea isn't, because she's almost like Io's perfect dance partner at this point.
Exactly.
But every single thing Io does looks fantastic. Whether she's selling, whether she's the one on top, she's always the one that can kind of make these matches move. And I'm at the point that if you've got a major PLE match with Io Shirai in it at any point, or Io Sky, I'm sorry, the match is going to over deliver. And it was tough to really say that this match was an over deliver, because obviously that triple threat was so short a time ago that it's fresh in your mind from Mania. But I feel like everybody's still coming out of this looking good. Like, Io didn't get pinned. Rhea was about to finally pin her, and then she got rolled up. And obviously, like, we'll bring Crazy Shark back in here. Rhea took the pin, absolutely shocked. And, she's been doing business this year. A lot of people had that like Rhea Hogan thing when they were giving Becky as well, which they just give to everybody that is a dominant woman for some reason. But Rhea, when was the last big win that she had on a PLE especially? So, and she doesn't feel smaller because of it, right? So that just shows the level of star that Rhea Ripley is. And eventually, when she does overcome Io or just get her hands back on the title again, it's going to feel like a big moment again. And I think 6 months ago, even, people wouldn't have thought that about Rhea. Where you at with Rhea now? Do you think that she's still the face of the women's division, or are things starting to change in WWE?
Oh, she's the face. She's the face until probably for the next 5 years, I would say.
Right.
I think she is the face, and kudos to WWE, because I think this is how you build some long-term sustainability with Rhea Ripley, and you can get those 5 more years out of her. Is tell us stories that are her working from a deficit. Io Sky's never beaten her. Tell us stories that aren't just I want the title because mommy's on top. Like, that's kind of what they've been doing with her for a while. And then this year they kind of got outside their comfort zone with her a little bit and kind of are starting to tell these little side stories with Chelsea Green and Sigrid Hervis and, teaming up with Stephanie Vicaire. And then you have this ongoing never end feud with Io Sky. Like, they're doing a good job giving her more character. And, she needs to take those losses for people to continue to support her. And I think those losses only solidify that she is still going to be the face of the women's division for a long time to come, because they don't want anyone turning on her. They want people to somehow, some way figure out how to get people to feel bad for Rhea Ripley.
Right. And she's like, obviously, Io has had such a strong 2025. But Rhea has been lockstep and key with her the whole time. And,
Yep.
Rhea is somebody that, they just look at and it's money, right? So she doesn't have to be on top to draw that money either. We'll talk about it again after the other women's match on this show, but I think that the WWE women's roster, while it's very strong, it does need a shakeup among the two shows. But we'll dig into that again once we get to the Becky Lyra match. Next up on this show, and actually, we'll tidy that up. Naomi now moves on to Paris with Stephanie Vicaire. Does Vicaire beat her, or does Naomi steal another win?
Great question. I think this is going to be a multi-pay-per-view rivalry. So I'm going to say, and I don't know if they're ready to put the title on Stephanie Vicaire. So I'm going to say Naomi sneaks a win somehow, some way, by hook or by crook. And we are going to get a sequel to this match, perhaps at Survivor Series, maybe at the Royal Rumble. But I think this is the beginning of a bigger feud where Naomi's going to sneak out on top.
Right, I agree, and I actually think it could be a spot where, obviously with the AAA relationship, like while Vicaire's from Chile, she's a superstar in Mexico, so maybe they find a way to weasel them onto a rematch on some sort of Mexico show down the road. Yeah. That could be something I could definitely see, even if they hold off to do like a Worlds Collide again and they just do it in the U.S. I think that's probably the optimal way to eventually decide you're going to give the keys to Vicaire, right? Yeah. But we'll see. I think Naomi, this was a lot of people saw this triple threat as a sink or swim spot for Naomi, and she didn't swim, nor did she sink. She was still kind of just herself, Yeah. And that's not a bad place to be. It was still a match that people are going to look back fondly on. Another match that came up that was just people use the term car crash in wrestling a lot. It was the true definition of a car crash in this next match when it was a 6-pack TLC match for the WWE Tag Team Champions, which the Wyatt 6 team of Loomis and I can't even think of the other guys, Gacy, which he was a fucking lunatic, defend against the Street Profits, DIY, the Motor City Machine Guns, Fraxium, and the team of Andrade and Phoenix. This match was chaotic. The entire Wyatt 6 interfered. Candice LeRae interfered and then subsequently died. B-Fab interfered, which was B-Fab. And then there was just crazy spots. At one point, they had ladders set up in all 4 corners outside the ring. And they used every inch of those 4 ladders. And they were just the most nuts spots. Like Loomis just does this reckless leg drop and just looks like he killed the guy that he landed on. That Spanish fly from Axiom onto Dawkins was just nuts. They had no room for error. The quadruple table bump that Ciampa of all fucking people and Johnny Gargano took was just chaos. The Candice bump, it looked like she destroyed both of her legs in a second. Even the bump that Uncle Howdy took when he got the typical Andrade destroyer. Andrade continues to crush ladder matches, he always does. What was, like, if you could pick, what was your favorite spot in this match loaded with them?
There's one that I know I'll never forget, and it's going to be when I want to say it was Nathan Frazier is at the top of the ladder, and he's going for the paying homage to the Jeff Hardy spear, and just somehow, some way, Ciampa does like a kick up and is dangling head down, dangling inverted.
Right.
misses the spear. Obviously that sequence with all the things around, like all the table spots around the ring, was awesome, and that was the standout spot. But
Yeah.
just for some, just it's so hard to get creative in tables, ladders, and chairs matches nowadays. And just I just genuinely appreciate that little moment where I'm like, I know exactly what you're doing, and it's in front of Jeff Hardy, and I can hear Michael Cole say it now. And somehow, some way, Ciampa gets himself up there and just dodges it by dangling upside down from
Yeah.
such a cool spot. Such a cool
Just
spot.
a scary, scary thing to watch, especially from a
Yeah,
guy like Ciampa, who, if he fell from there, there's
he's
no
dead.
question what would happen, right?
Yeah.
It was just it was a beautiful disaster, right? Like this
Yeah.
entire match. Like you're not showing this to kids that are training to wrestle, right? But you know, that's not what wrestling's all about sometimes. This was like that typical showcase match for this whole division, right?
Yeah. And
Who desperately deserved it.
Yeah, and I sorry to cut you off, but I want to applaud that they have done such a good job with the tag team division over on SmackDown. Just I keep going back to that promo that Nick Aldis cut. I think it was before WrestleMania, where he was drawing all the lines on the whiteboard, connecting
Yeah.
everyone, and they've somehow built up this division. And then everyone's like, "Oh, they threw in the Wyatt Six," and it's like, no, you get to see this tag team division that's been feuding with each other for the better part of 3 months now try to figure out how to work together, but also still hate each other. Like, I really appreciated the build to all this since pre-WrestleMania, and then you mix in that little spice of they get a TLC match on a PLE now, anniversary of TLC. It was really fun. It was all really fun. I really enjoyed this match, and it was a great addition to the card.
Yeah, to your point, you don't see creative things in many ladder matches anymore, but
Yeah.
I feel like we've kind of had a resurgence this year, right?
Yeah.
Between these guys that, you know, 3 of these teams did a TLC in April, and I was surprised they came right back to it, but it's such an iconic moment. Love the fact that the Hardys and the Dudleys were involved in this by being in the front row for this match. And not only that, it was fun to watch. I didn't really see the Hardys in the match, but the Dudleys' reactions to things were pretty funny. When the Street Profits did get the table spot, then, you know, Bubba was trying to start the chant, obviously doing whatever he can to keep himself over. But it was a good callback to that, and it was just, they should have earned themselves future PLE opportunities based on what happened on this, you know, night. The finish came. There's a scramble on top of 2 ladders until Uncle Howdy came and pushed everyone off, sending DIY through the stack of tables out of the ring. Nathan Frazier received the mandible claw from Howdy, and Andrade came and delivered a sunset flip powerbomb to Uncle Howdy. Ray Phoenix was alone, looked like he was about to win, and then Gacy and Loomis were able to get him off of the ladder, and Gacy climbed it and retrieved the titles to keep the gold in 16 minutes. The Wyatts, I figured were going to retain because they've got the Halloween Horror Nights stuff coming down the pipeline. Hopefully Andrade and Phoenix get their hands on these titles at some point. Their entrance is awesome, and they're such an organic team. That just kind of was a perfect fit for both when it started. So do you kind of agree that you think that Andrade and Phoenix might be the 2 that they really seem to be building long-term here?
Yeah, that was my pick to win. I know I kind of kept the Halloween Horror Night stuff in the back of my head, but my pick going into this was that they were going to put those titles on Andrade, just the way they were talking about it. You even heard, I think, Michael Cole or Wade Barrett say it on the commentary, like some teams just come together and they click right away and there's something special. I thought they were going to do that tonight, but I understand the putting it on the Wyatt Six, and I kind of appreciate it because I feel like everyone was using this match to write off the Wyatt Six, and it's like, no, they're a part of this division now. So I like the way, I like the finish there. I think it was the right decision to keep the titles on those guys, just because, you know, they've been doing a lot of hot potato with those titles for the past couple months. Like, keep a true reign going until they can figure out how to manage the numbers advantage.
Absolutely. We'll bring Crazy Shark in. Ciampa took a lot of risk for a guy with a history of neck issues. He sure did. But that's what Ciampa is. He doesn't have a off button. It's always on for him, and you know, that's why he's had so many neck issues. He doesn't know how to say no. But hopefully he came out of this unscathed. I didn't hear of any injuries coming out of this night at all. It's still early. But if there was one, it was probably in this match. There was just so much crazy shit that went down. And, you know, I am not the hugest fan of this incarnation of the Wyatts. But, I think Loomis and Gacy have worked hard to get themselves in this spot, and they've kind of dealt with a lot of shit along the way. So it's nice to kind of see they're the underdog, even though they're almost positioned as the heel in this match because of all their friends came to help them. So it'll be interesting to see if they keep this going for another 2-3 months because of the Halloween Horror Nights. If the crowd eventually like full blown turns on them, which would kind of kill the entire gimmick, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see how that all shakes down. But all in all, I think it was a fun match and was the showcase that this division needed.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Next up, another no disqualification match. This one they had to throw no count out into the mix, where Lyra Valkyria gets a last chance shot at the Women's Intercontinental Championship and her Irish foe herself, Becky Lynch. This match was fun, but maybe outstayed its welcome. I think 25 minutes. I'll go through the rundown real quick. Lynch had a crowbar in her hand outside the ring while Valkyria was all tied into a knot in a chair. And then Bayley came out and stopped her. The champion tried to talk Bayley into doing it instead. And Bayley contemplated it for a second, but she didn't go through and delivered hits to Lynch instead, driving her through a barricade. But eventually Bayley got thrown into the front row. Lynch was able to get up from that and stand over by a table, and Lyra came shooting out of nowhere with a leg drop through the table to the outside, which is a great spot because the way they shot it, you didn't see it coming. Both women were gassed. They tried to get into the ring to find a winner. Bayley came back up on the apron to try to hit Lynch with the steel chain that she had brought into the match earlier. Lynch ducked. Valkyria got decked, which allowed Lynch to capitalize and hit the manhandle slam in 25 minutes and 5 seconds. There was a lot of creative spots in this one. I think that the tying of the hands from Lyra was fun, and they really thought of how to best use that. When she got her arms around Becky and kind of trapped her arms, I thought that was a cool moment. Lyra was able to do a lot without having her hands, which bumping is hard when you don't have your hands to brace yourself. And she still made it happen. Eventually, she got under the ring. She finally found a pair of scissors or whatever they had under there to get her done. I think she was trying to get it unhooked from earlier, whatever else she had out there. I think it was the fire extinguisher, but it just wasn't working. But she got it off, and then she surprised Becky with that. I think that this entire feud has been very good. It's elevated Lyra.
Absolutely. Did I lose you?
Nate, I think we're back.
I got
All
you.
right, yeah, that was weird. I don't know what happened. I lost mine too, so we don't know. So yeah, what were your thoughts on this match?
This match would have been perfect on Saturday. I don't know. I think this match would have been much, much more well received on Saturday. Don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely not saying anything negative about the match. I just think this match kind of fell victim to being in front of that triple threat and then that ladder match. And then you have this no DQ, no count out match. You could have swapped this with the women's tag titles, and I think it would have worked out just fine. Or, do whatever you need to do. But this match definitely should have been on Saturday. Great spots, great unique finishes. I liked everything with, like you said, the zip tie. I liked everything with the chair, wrapping her head around the chair. Lyra looked amazing just lying on the ground there with her neck around the chair, and that spot where you had Bayley and Becky arguing, and you just had Lyra on the ground, like just kind of looks half dead. She did a great job, and I think again too, this one certified that Lyra is going to be a world heavyweight champion on Raw. She's definitely going to be a world heavyweight champion, and I put her kind of a little bit further ahead of some of the other younger talent on Raw. I think she's going to be that next one that makes that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lyra gained a lot. I mean, I think back to where she was at the Royal Rumble, and the crowd was crickets when she came out. They weren't singing her theme song, which is made to get a reaction. She struggled with that, and the IC run felt like a flop to the point that they put her into a tag title feud for Mania. But then Becky came and saved the day, right? And I don't want to give all the credit to Becky because Lyra did work her ass off on the mic, especially to make this feud happen. But that heel Becky Lynch just brings the best out of you from a promo perspective. And obviously, Becky made it a point to get Lyra over, right? She
Yep.
wanted to do it at NXT, and it kind of worked, and then she did it here too. So I think Lyra obviously will probably move into a blood feud with Bayley. I don't know what's next for Becky, but there's a lot of girls that they can kind of elevate to that next level. So I'm excited to see where they go. What do you think's next for Becky? Anything pop off your head?
That's a great question. I was thinking Lyra and Bailey will kind of go on and do their little side quest, but just trying to think about anyone on the roster right now that could use it. But Bailey's working as a heel right now. I'd love to see a little bit more interaction with the Judgment Day, but I don't think that's really going to work. Honestly, I got to take a revisit on the roster. I'm not 100% sure what's next
Right.
for Becky.
It's tough. And I think that's kind of the point I want to make with this women's division.
Nikki Bella,
maybe it could be maybe even EO. Maybe they do something with them again. Be a little bit of a different dynamic now. But it's going to be interesting because it kind of like all these women on Raw, other than Becky, because she's really been tied into Lyra and Bailey for the last couple months since she came back. All these other women on Raw feel like they've wrestled each other a million times.
Yeah.
And same thing with SmackDown. Like Chelsea, someone that's kind of treading water right now. She's somebody that could, get a gasoline lid on her if she got thrown on Raw.
It was nice having her on Raw a couple weeks ago. It felt right. I think
it
added that layer of freshness with that 6 tag.
Right. And like you've got like Julia on SmackDown who kind of feels like she's treading water. Like Zelina Vega feels like she's kind of done all that she can do. You've got girls like Candice who, were using the spot tonight, but they're obviously not going to be ticketed for something big. And there's a lot in NXT that's kind of waiting for their opportunity too. So I think that these two women's rosters are going to be in way different spots by the end of the year. And Bianca's coming right around the corner as well. So I do think that we're going to probably get some sort of if not draft, a shuffle at some point. But I do think that while these women's divisions, have been really fire for the duration of the year, they do need a change.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that goes for the men too. In some instances, I think we're all kind of just waiting till LA Knight's a member of the Raw roster,
right?
But I think they have a deep roster, and I think that everyone's kind of been saying that. And I think if they do some sort of shakeup, you will really see how deep this roster is. And when they keep going, because people will try to chalk it up to like a good year of those few feuds clicking, but they switch this up and you're going to see that this women's roster is very talented and very deep. And there's a lot of different things that they can do. And it would benefit, you have Becky bring that Intercontinental title to Raw or to SmackDown. And you take some of your younger babyface talent on the women's division and you just let her do her thing. It's only going to make everyone better. But no, I agree with everything you said there.
Becky seems like she wants to do the storytelling side of things now. So it's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where she excels. While you've got, she's got that title while Julia's with the other, mid-card title having like, in-ring matches, bi-weekly. I think it kind of works as a change-up. And then last question on this match. What did you think of Becky's new theme song, which is from the pop-punk band The Wonder Years?
Yeah. I did hear that. It was very good. It's so nice not hearing and again, she had one of the better themes, but at the same time, it's nice to hear some music that actually has it sounds like it has some thought put behind it, with people walking out. I can compare that directly to the Fraxium theme song, which I had never heard before until tonight, live and in person. And that song is just terrible. It's one of the worst scenes I've ever heard in my entire life. So just comparing it directly to that, it's off to a great start. And I know a lot of different celebrities want to get involved in making some music for WWE. And if that song is anything like that, we get some good theme songs for some wrestlers that are struggling over here, like Fraxium. You get some big celebrities involved. It could be really cool. Great entrance, great song. Loved it. Can't wait till I can listen to it on Spotify if I can't yet.
Right. It's kind of like the loss of an iconic theme, because when you think about Becky, like, that was one you heard and you immediately knew who it was. Right. Yeah. And then, before we get off this women division, Crazy Shark comes in. And there's some other comments that I'll come back to later on, guys. Maybe they throw Lyra at Naomi if Naomi gets past Vaquer. Maybe I feel like Lyra is going to be tied into Bailey now for a bit. And I mean, that seems like it's, you don't end the match they did, and Lyra just kind of let it go. And I just don't think Vicaire is going to be a one and done. I feel like that's going to be a multi-match feud between those two. And, you know, Vicaire is ultimately probably going to be who beats Naomi, whether they wait 6 months or so to do it. I do kind of feel like that's why they're going this route next. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. But you know what I have to say? If I had to pick two people right now to win the Women's Royal Rumble at this point in the year, I think my top two would be Lyra and Stephanie Vicaire.
Yeah, maybe a little Roxanne can even get thrown in there. But what I will say,
perfect grudge match sitting there though between Liv Morgan and Roxanne, where you can just add another solid women's match to the card.
Right.
You know, you're right. You are right.
Yeah,
definitely. At some point, it's going to happen. But you got that grudge match setting right there.
It just feels like as we start gearing up, I mean, it's crazy to think about the fact that the Royal Rumble is 6 months away at this point, right?
3 pay-per-views left is crazy.
Yeah. So you have to start thinking about it. In the women's division, it seems like they've always kind of gone big with who wins their Rumbles. So they're due for one of these like Jey Uso types that kind of comes out of left field and just pushes somebody to the moon. So we'll see where it all goes. And let's see, Ryan came back in. Thanks, guys. I'll catch this tomorrow. Brock Lesnar and Matt Cummings are back. So, you know, there we go, you know.
I don't know if that's a list I want to be on.
Yeah, I was just going to say it. Next up, we had a steel cage match for the United States Championship. Solo Sikoa defends against Jacob Fatu. Sikoa climbed the steel cage to try to win. He was trying to get the fuck away from Jacob. When he got to the top, though, Fatu met him and brought him back in. Then we had the MFTs trying to get into the ring. And then out of nowhere, Tala Tonga handcuffed Fatu to the cage. He showed some good mobility getting up that cage for a big guy, which paved the way for Sikoa to win. JC Mateo opened the door to help him out, but Fatu somehow ripped the handcuffs off with nothing stopping him, and got rid of the Solo attempt to exit. He was going to drag Sikoa out, but then Tala used the door to hit Fatu in the face, which knocked him out, and Sikoa just fell out of the ring in 12 minutes and 40 seconds. And then post-match, Jimmy Uso reappeared as he did earlier in the match, threw Mateo in the ring, and Fatu assaulted Mateo and the other guy, Tonga Loa. He climbed to the top rope, did the high-flying moonsault on the top of the cage. He hit Tama Tonga directly in the face, or Tonga Loa, I'm sorry, directly in the face with his knee. I wouldn't be shocked to hear that Loa was back on the shelf after that one. But what did you think of this match?
I want everything about this to work so bad. I am such a huge Solo Sikoa fan. I am such a huge Jacob Fatu fan. I am, you know, I think they could tell a great story with Jimmy Uso at one point, kind of like that ugly duckling story, like, you know, just being in the shadow of the whole bloodline. Like, I want everything about this to work, and it's just not working for me, man. You know, it's so surface level. I thought they did a good job with the kind of police story on SmackDown, but I don't know. This one was tough for me. The moonsault after the match, you know, Solo kind of just falling out, which I hate as a stipulation from the get-go. You should only be able to call for the door once or something like that. I don't know. I really, really, really wanted this to work because I'm such a big fan of everything, but this has been an entire miss, I think, since the debut of Tala Tonga. The whole thing, it's just been kind of meh.
Blah. Yeah, it's like the lowest form of a bloodline, right? Like we're hanging on to it to some degree.
We are at the ugliest version of the bloodline. We've
and there's really like, unless Tama comes back and like, you know, turns babyface, like it feels like it's never ending. And if the bloodline, if they bring this back to War Games just for the third year in a row, basically the bloodline story, it just doesn't work for me, pal. So. Yeah, you know, Solo, I can respect Solo's charisma. I think he's grown a lot into that like cult leader role, kind of. And like I love how he's so goofy sometimes, like the way he reacts to things. He's always been entertaining TV until the bell rings, right? I never really fallen into a Solo Sikoa match that I feel like, well, I've got to rewatch that, right? And Jacob is somebody he's always going to get a reaction. He's somebody that people want to be, pushed to the top of the card. But I think they're running a risk that they can cool him down the longer they keep this feud going. On paper, SummerSlam felt like the right time to crown him again, just like they did at WrestleMania. But look how long ago that feels now, right? Yeah. Jacob's still hot. Jacob's kind of feeling like he's on SmackDown, like what Rhea is on Raw. Like they're both in those spots to make everybody around them look better, and just kind of waiting for their moment, right? Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, there's more that they can do with this feud, but eventually, Jacob and Jimmy are gonna need more friends, and I'm kind of afraid of what that means.
Yeah, I know. I don't know who's left at this point, but I know you got Tama Tonga sitting around, but I don't know. I'm over this, man. I get Jacob Fatu over to Monday Night Raw somehow, some way. Get him away from Solo, because Solo's group, if you just give him some time, I think they could turn into something good. But they're just stuck in that. I love the whole concept of, Jacob's kind of like this mafia boss, but he's got a little bit of like Gen Z in him almost too. Like he's, it's a cool character, but I don't know. They're just, as long as they keep spinning around each other and it's like a never-ending cycle of bloodline. I don't know. I hate to say it because I've been so patient with everything and I've been so high on everything that I think they've finally officially lost me.
They were teasing Jacob and Damian Priest for a while. Like that was something I was into. Yeah. I just want to see Jacob have good matches with people, right? And I feel like everything with Solo is just becoming like cartoonish, right? Like tonight's finish was it was such a heel heavy night, right?
Yeah.
Obviously until we had a main event with two baby faces. But even that got crashed by a heel return at the end, right? So it was kind of a weird layout, and this match definitely is the one of the entire show that you could pluck off and nobody would really even notice.
Yeah.
Granted, you had the cool moonsault late, but I don't know. I feel like he should have done that in the match. It would have had more impact, even if he, missed or whatever.
That's I couldn't agree more. That should have been the spot of the match to kind of get that crowd to really sink their teeth into that match and pop for the pin or whatever. But I don't know, the whole thing just felt so messy, and it's just like they try to do the bloodline thing where people run in at all directions, and now they're just doing it in the United States title match. Like the fall from grace is impeccable. It's
definitely low rent, and I'm afraid of Jacob being too down the spiral with it now.
I know, and it's like there's so much potential to tell a great story with this guy and his past. And getting the crowd behind like this guy to be a huge babyface, which I think they will. But I just the spamming of the catchphrases and just being caught in this bloodline circle. I'm not taking the panic button out of the room yet, but I'm looking at the door and I'm saying, might want to look at that panic button for Jacob Fatu.
Right, that's whole SmackDown men's roster. Like we were talking about it earlier with Cody, Aleister Black, Damian Priest, Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa, Andrade, Drew McIntyre. They're all guys, Santos Escobar, Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah.
These are all guys that have the ability to really be anywhere on the card they want them to be. Yeah. Even like, look at what Jeff Cobb's done. Like he is so unimportant. For somebody who's had big wins in New Japan, right? Shinsuke Nakamura, where the hell is he now, right? Yeah. There's so much on the SmackDown roster that they can do a lot more with. And I'm hoping now, that we get out of SummerSlam, we're back getting really comfortable with that 2-hour format again. We maybe start to see some movement. But it's ultimately, it's time for some change, right? And again, let's shake up these rosters soon and figure this all out.
Even too, like it's call it lazy or call it whatever, but if you give me like a nice 6-pack challenge next Friday on SmackDown and you put Aleister Black, you put Damian Priest, you put Carmelo Hayes, you put LA Knight, and you put whoever else is on the roster, Drew McIntyre gonna win. Like you kind of build up a division. You say the winner gets Cody in Paris or at Crown Jewel or whatever the hell they want to do. Like just get some establish that division, and you could put all those people around Cody Rhodes and be just fine. It's just like we don't really like. it's just kind of been stuck so separate because it's all been with John Cena. But you could establish a nice division there, and establish some nice contenders for Cody, and really boost up that roster because it needs it desperately.
Yeah, like I look at Black and Carmelo Hayes in particular. Like those are two Cody guys in a weird way, right?
Yeah.
He had the Black feud in AEW, and then Carmelo, somebody he trained with when he was coming back from injury. And right away he was having house show matches with them. After SmackDown tapings, they would have matches. I think they had one in Worcester. I just feel like there could be a Carmelo Hayes resurgence for a match with Cody at some point here.
They had that great match on SmackDown when he first debuted.
Yeah.
So a title match. It was weird, but it was a great match.
He's the one that I hope gets elevated. And I mean, obviously we have local ties here with him, so that's probably where my heart is. But he's the guy that I feel like is being used the least. At least they got something for the others. So we'll see where it shakes out. Now the mid-card scene on Raw is in better shape. As we saw in this match for the Intercontinental Championship match where Dominic Mysterio defended against AJ Styles finally. AJ came out in the Eddie Guerrero car, which I thought was awesome, and his ring gear was spectacular and a homage to Eddie Guerrero there. They really harped on the 20-year anniversary of the custody match, so I feel like this worked out pretty well. AJ was able to get a calf crusher submission onto Dom, but his boot came off. He then got shoved by the referee. He was able to shove when the referee wasn't looking, and when he was hit by the boot, which from there allowed the frog splash to happen to get Dom the victory and retain the title 10 minutes and 45 seconds in. They did a really good job after replaying what happened, where Dom personally unzipped his boot to try to loosen it up. So if he got into the calf crusher, the boot would come off and he'd be able to get out of it quicker. And then whether, he had it loaded or whatever, they ended up making sure that he really used that to lay out AJ when the ref wasn't looking. So really well put together. Wasn't an exciting match until the finish, but I think the finish was really good. What's your thoughts on not only this, but the continued evolution of Dom Mysterio, who doesn't need somebody doing his dirty work for him anymore? He's doing it himself.
Yeah, but you just took the words right out of my mouth. Highlight of this match was no Judgment Day interference. I could just sniff it from a mile away. Someone was going to do something, or JD McDonough was going to do something, and then you get like a Penta run in or something weird was going to happen. But no Judgment Day finish, or no Judgment Day involved in the finish, which was a huge plus. Great entrance for Dom, great entrance for AJ Styles. Fun, entertaining build to this match. Super unique finish. Loved everything about this. It's probably not going to stand out on a card that ended up with multiple 20+ minute matches on it and all these Extreme Rules. So it's probably not going to be remembered, but it was a fun little story with the whole doctor's note, and it delivered. I think it ended up delivering, and it was the right call, keeping the title on Dominic. I think they're sending Dominic right to AAA with that Intercontinental title, and they might strap up that AAA title on him. We get the AAA title on Raw, just like we got the tag titles on SmackDown last week. It seems like that crossover is coming. A little bit more and more. So I think you just keep doing what you're doing with Dominic. I think what stood out to me tonight was that this was probably his first big win against a formidable opponent with no outside interference. Now, you can go back to the interferences for a little bit, and you just keep sprinkling in those big wins, and you just keep adding them and adding them and adding them. And they're doing the right thing with Dominic. Don't change a damn thing, because this was a fun little piece of SummerSlam that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Dom, just getting him on the show is huge, because he's somebody that is a budding star. Him doing the visual, running out, putting the mask back on was awesome. His shot, he's gonna be bright and shiny. When or do we ever, and if we do, how long away are we from a Dominic Mysterio world title opportunity?
I've thought about this already. I've actually come prepared with this answer. It's not after this upcoming Money in the Bank next year. It's in 2 years. After that following Money in the Bank.
So we'll say 2027, maybe SummerSlam 2027.
Yeah.
We can come back to this.
Yep, I think 2027 you're going to see Dominic, or early 2028 you're going to see Dom Mysterio with cash in on probably the world title. That would be.
We'll see what happens with the whole live of everything here, because obviously that's going to stall a lot of what they probably want to do with the Judgment Day story. But and obviously the women lost their titles. Maybe the men are quick too, and then Dom's the only one with a title. That's probably the story that I would go. I do think we're going to get
Finn Balor match too. Sorry.
Right. No, you're good. You're good.
You got that Finn Balor match on standby too, like that inevitable split, and you probably could even make it a mixed tag now at some point with Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. So they got some good stuff cooking. I have to say, every time I'm out on the Judgment Day, I'm back in. So
you gotta pretty much keep Dom as a heel until Liv's back, and then they can be baby faces together. Like ultimately, everybody's beating down Dom, and Liv makes the save. That's ultimately where I think they turn to that. So I mentioned that last night, but nothing happened in this match that keeps me from that idea. Now, got one question that popped up here. If you guys are listening and you have any other questions you want us to pop through before we head out of here, please, by all means. Ash Perez, hey, put a pretty fun question out here. With Brock returning, what match do you like best? Brock versus Braun with Heyman at a Mania, or Brock versus Oba Femi in a big PLE? Kind of random choices, but two matches that we have to see if we have Brock in tow. Which one's more appealing to you, are those two?
Brock and Braun. That's the story. That story writes itself right there. I mean, listen, Oba Femi's a long way from I think by the time Oba Femi gets to the point where he should be wrestling Brock Lesnar won't be wrestling anymore. And but right now you're about probably a good year away from potentially SummerSlam, Minneapolis, Brock Lesnar's hometown, SummerSlam 2026, Brock Lesnar versus Braun Breaker, maybe, who knows? It would take a lot of legwork to get there from where we are right now, but I think Braun v. Brock is the match, and the story's right there for you. Next big thing versus old big thing.
Especially if Heyman's still tied into Braun, there's a lot of legs there, and then there's another scorned Heyman guy that's lingering now. So we're heading towards the Clash in Paris. That's going to be the next PLE, and we are 4 weeks away, basically, at this point. It's Memorial Day weekend, Sunday afternoon, which, last Sunday before the NFL starts, so it's good timing.
Yep.
We know now we've got Stephanie Vaquer and Naomi on a collision course. What else do you kind of see getting pushed together for this card? Now that we're a day removed from Seth Rollins, getting that title, who's his first opponent? Do you think it's Knight? Do you think it's Jey Uso or somebody else?
I think it's Knight. I think you gotta come back to that Knight story, because despite it being part of your plan, you didn't factor in the fact that LA Knight was the last person to pin Seth Rollins. So it's a very easy story to tell, and I think it would make a lot of fans happy who might not be as happy about LA Knight's positioning on the SummerSlam card. So I would say probably LA Knight is going to be that first person that you challenge, and you can you can keep Jay and them doing stuff with Seth's crew there. But yeah, I would go LA Knight and Seth Rollins at Clash in Paris.
So John Cena is going to be on SmackDown in Montreal this coming Friday. He's not going to be on the Boston show on the 15th. He's going to be on SmackDown in Dublin, Ireland on the 22nd, and in France on the 29th, which is the go home to the show in Paris on the 31st. So with really 3 SmackDowns to build, one and then one off, do we get Cena and Brock right away in Paris, or do they push this off a little bit?
Yeah, I think we get it in Paris. It makes the most sense because, unless they wanted, I was going to say they wanted in Saudi, but it's not Saudi. Maybe they hold that match off for Crown Jewel just to kind of, keep going with big shows for that. But I don't know. This seems like your Clash in Paris main event, and what the hell else are you going to do with Cena between now and you have to do this. You have to.
Right. You do. And then he's got Chicago and Springfield, Mass for Raw in September, and then Crown Jewel. Those are the only thing announced now. So I do think maybe we get into a world where he loses the Brock match or whatever happens. Losing probably makes the most sense. And then he flips over to Raw to kind of finish. I think that's the route that I can see things going. Who knows? With John Cena,
Drew McIntyre Cena. I think Drew McIntyre Cena is could be around the corner as well.
Now, as we look towards, like, obviously Cody, we kind of think LA Knight and um, Rollins. Who do you think is the Cody opponent in Paris?
I would say it's my if I had to divvy up my chips, I would put the most chips on no title match in Paris. Um, if I have to make a pick, do we pull the trigger on the Randy Orton RKO to Cody Rhodes out of nowhere? I think no.
Right.
So thinking about the roster right now, you get LA Knight, who's going to be on Raw. That's a tough one. But maybe Cody Rhodes and Damian Priest. They've teased that a little bit. I could see that being kind of like a, hey, we're going to throw a title match in the middle of the card and get Cody Rhodes his first defense. Priest defeats Aleister Black in a qualifier, or however they want to do it. But I would say maybe Damian Priest would make the most sense for another big guy too that missed SummerSlam.
Yeah, that could work. That could definitely work. The 6 names that are, prominently advertised for this show are Cena, Cody, Jey Uso, Rhea Ripley, Gunther, and Tiffany Stratton. Gunther's somebody that I could see getting scratched for this, but if he doesn't deliver on an advertising there, then obviously there's the Europe of it all that would make sense. So if they replace him with Brock Lesnar, I think that crowd will be just fine.
Yeah. I also could see Cody getting potentially, maybe we get some sort of 6 tag at Clash in Paris, and it's like Cody, Randy, Jimmy, and Jacob versus, because they were running something similar to that at live events versus like the MFTs. I could see that, but I don't know. I'd be interested to see what happens to Cody this Friday on SmackDown.
Yeah, there's going to be some fun, like almost reset now for a lot of these guys, which we desperately fucking needed, man, because we've had, going back to Backlash, there's been like a show every 2 to 3 weeks. So we can kind of breathe a little bit, having 4 and then having 6 to the next one. There's no Saturday's main event now till December. You've got really 4 big shows for the rest of the year. You've got this France show, the Australia show, which is October 11th. You've got Survivor Series, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So everything's breathing now, right? Whether they add another show in, like bring another Bad Blood in, wouldn't shock me for like early November, late October. But I hope that they just let everything continue to breathe, because then maybe when we get to a War Games, we have an organic War Games for both sides. It's not that's looking where we are for War Games, which is 3 months out, almost exactly at this point. The only real faction groups, right, are the Heyman crew, which apparently is now going to be known as the Vision. That's what they trademarked. And then you've got the MFTs, which we already talked about. We can't really foresee that. Unless it's some sort of a combination between the two to field a War Games team, because obviously that crew would need more people. But I could also see a lane where maybe the Heyman's groups gets more people involved in that too. So it's going to be interesting.
Needs additional people. I think I think people keep saying like Carmelo Hayes, but I feel like if you're ready to pull the trigger on like an Ethan Page or Ricky Saints, that'd be really cool. But that's kind of the route I see them going for War Games, is like Seth's crew plus additional hired guns. But I'll give them a little more faith that it's going to feel a little bit more organic, because we have time. We have some time.
Yeah, could be a fun way if maybe he brings in like a Solo and a Tala Tonga, and then Punk, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, they pull in Jacob, right? Like that could be a way that they could go. So we'll see.
Right there, man.
And then women's Survivor Series, there's nothing right now, right?
Yeah.
So then there never is. They always tend to have it defined. That Damage Control had a little bit, but not really. So it's going to be an interesting couple months, right? And I'm very much looking forward to the fact that we're not getting to SmackDown and Raw this week, and we have to start worrying about a show in 2 weeks, right? I think everything could breathe. Everything's going to start heating up again, as we push towards the end of the month, and then NFL season starts. They're going to need to have something to go fresh. That's when I hope that there's some sort of a shakeup and or draft, and we'll see where everything goes. But Matt, thank you for spending some time with us tonight. Welcome back to the network. We'll try to get you back in again here soon. If you guys enjoyed your time at SummerSlam this weekend because you weren't here. Thank you for, giving up the words. You were getting the words back to us on, how that crowd was, how the energy was. Obviously chime in on that, as you're going to follow this and watch this later, have some comments in there. We'll always reference it back. So thank you guys for however you consume this, whether you waited a few days and listened to it on the stream, or you watched it with us on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks again. I'll be back with you guys Tuesday morning for Shooting Sharp, where we will run through everything a little bit more, and then start maybe game planning for what the future for WWE looks like over the next 4 weeks. And we'll be talking about Brock. We'll probably know a lot more in the next 24 hours on how that all came together. So, Matt, do you have anything you want to plug?
No, just keep watching wrestling. That's it.
You doing the gambling article still or no?
No, I took a step back. Once I had a career change, so I took a step back. But I'm always posting my gambling advice. I took the under on the Hall of Fame game, got smoked, so I'm gonna take a little break and we'll come back. But no, my plug is just keep listening to my boy Mike over here and keep watching wrestling and keep loving wrestling.
Absolutely, and to kind of tidy that up, the second biggest favorite of the weekend was Logan Paul. Well, I'm sorry, it was Jelly Roll and Randy Orton, and they lost. So I think Jelly Roll, they were like minus 800. So if you had Logan or Drew, you made some money this week. So
I didn't know the Wyatt Six were the betting favorites.
It was tight. It was like minus 170 at the end. Them and Andrade were kind of flipping back and forth. And then Jacob was Solo was a slight underdog. Becky was pretty much an even moderate by the end of it. But Cody ended up only being minus 200. So that's why as that moved, it was like plus or minus 400 a couple days ago. It came down to minus 200 today. And that's when I was like, what the fuck is going on with this match, Yeah. But, none of us thought Brock. I think last night we had two shocking conclusions of both nights of SummerSlam. One we saw coming, one we didn't. So let's see. Let's watch the internet burn over the next 24 hours. All right, Matt. Have a good one. Thanks, again. And thank you guys for listening. Later.